Welcome to the Stuff and Things Podcast, your home for all stuff related to your favorite things in entertainment. Now, here are your hosts.
Hello everybody and welcome to a new episode of the Stuff and Things podcast. I am Sam. Today we are discussing the Rings of Power from the Lord of the Rings. Joining me is my partner in crime, it's Stefan.
Yo, yo, yo!
Oh, it sounds very energetic today, mate.
We're podcasting early in the morning, so I haven't actually fully woken up yet, so this is just kind of like hyper sleep.
Okay.
I'm still suffering with insomnia, so therefore I'm okay until about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then I turn zombie.
Alright, well that's good to know. That's good to know. I think tomorrow we're recording later in the day, so we'll see how that goes.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the Rings of Power, the penultimate episode of Season 1. It is episode 7. The title of the episode was...
The Eye.
Yeah, when I saw that title, I did actually think to myself we were going to see like the Eye of Sauron or something.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm still not entirely sure.
I think it's just the Eye of the Storm.
Yeah, potentially.
Maybe. That's what I got from the end of it. But yeah.
Yeah, not entirely sure. But we discussed last week, episode 6 was obviously the kind of... we got the fight we knew had been coming. We had a lot of action. We had a lot of like storylines crashing together and characters meeting, which was good fun. And we kind of said, like, there's 2 episodes left in the season. It doesn't feel like 2 episodes left after that, but we kind of surmised, and we were proven accurate, that it is the the episode now where everything slows down a bit and takes stock, you know?
Yeah, we kind of expected a bit more of the Half-Foots, a lot more of the elf and dwarf communities.
Yeah.
And we kind of got that. For me, so I've already put a thing out on our Discord server about this episode really annoyed me.
Yeah.
And a couple of people on our Discord were like, oh no, why? Like, Ryan was like, but it's brilliant, why? And I'm going to explain why it annoyed me. And it's not going to be in a reason people probably expect.
Okay.
So this episode, I thought, was brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's actually annoyed me because of how good this episode was.
Okay.
So we're on episode 7.
Yeah.
Those first 3 or 4 episodes of the season, I admitted to you, I was really struggling with because of the pacing. It was slow. There was lots of dialogue. It was lots of plot setting. It was really, really slow.
Yeah.
This episode had loads of dialogue, loads of plot in it because it was all the fallout from one thing and the build up to fallout of something else.
Yeah.
Yet the pacing of this episode, where it was swapping quicker between the places, the pacing kept me engaged the whole episode. Even though there was no action, there was no kind of big events, like sort of thing. It was all plot building and dialogue. It was done at such a faster pace that it really kept me going. Yeah. And I'm like, why were the first 3 episodes so slow when they've just proven in this episode that they can do exactly the same thing, but with just slightly quicker editing between the points?
Yeah.
Made it so much better.
I think an argument for that could be that they've built the series. You're being introduced to everybody in the initial 3 episodes. It's going to be very difficult to inject pace into that. Certainly the first one, because there's a hell of a lot of discussion. Of kind of who the hell is that? Why should I care? who the hell is this? Why should I care?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a slow build. If you think of it like these 8 episodes are one movie, you're kind of building up through the first act. Then you've got, bang, all these, events happen, and then you're kind of into it. I think perhaps it could just be a perception thing because you now know the characters, so you're able to jump between character points a lot easier. So therefore, the pacing feels a lot better. I know definitely it feels better. I felt that from episode 5. I felt episode 5 was noticeably better at jumping, or just the pacing of going from, okay, we're going to have a bit of this story, then a bit of this story, and a bit of this story. And by doing that, you inject pace into an episode where there might not be any. Whereas episode 6, of course, didn't need that. Episode 6 was just, full on.
Whoa!
Yeah, absolutely get it. And then you go into episode 7, and again, like you just said, you're able to go from scene, storyline to storyline to storyline and back and forth, which naturally injects pace. I think early on, they needed so much time to set up who people were. What would be interesting is if going forward the show maintains what it is now. Mm-hmm. So I think you can be accepting of a slow start because it built the world, built the people, and then the show went into it. If season 2 doesn't start the same way, I think if season 2 starts the same way, then actually they're making a decision to make these series like a film. Like I said, where slow start and then you build and build and build.
Build to the main event and then the fallout.
I'm not entirely sure that works for episodic TV. I've said that on this show and a number of shows. I'm not entirely sure it works because people will disengage. And when they're released weekly as well, in the modern binge culture way of viewing,
it's a long wait. After a very slow episode, it's then a long wait for another slow episode.
Yeah, and I think people will go, do you know what, I'm going to leave it, and then when they're all out, I might duck back in and watch them. I don't know.
I mean, can you, I can almost imagine if they had 3 series. Each series is 8 episodes long, for example.
Yeah.
And at the end of the 3rd series, someone goes, yeah, do you know what? Actually, I've heard some quite good reviews. Let's binge it.
Yeah.
And you could watch the whole lot over a couple of weeks, for example.
Yeah.
And it would be like watching a really epically long movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it would work a lot that way. But like I say, I think you're probably right as well. Episode 5 was kind of like the turning point of, okay, stuff's happening now. Right, okay, here we go. And then obviously, episode 6 was like, damn, the big battle. But then, this episode, I think, apart from the battle last week, this has been the best episode for me. Yeah, just because that pacing was kind of the fallout and the pacing was there. And it's, even though the Harfoots aren't involved directly with this, cutting to them this week didn't feel like, oh, it's these guys again. Which I've had in a couple of episodes beforehand. It's like, stop the train.
Well, it felt like something was finally happening with them. Yeah. Which obviously it did. So let's start with them as we sort of walk through the episode. So the Harfoots come across like trees that have been destroyed by the eruption.
Yes.
We get kind of like not funny, but kind of like a, I've heard tales of when a mountain will spit fire, and it's a sign of evil. And what's kind of amusing about that, for me anyway, is if you think to a time in human history when we didn't have an understanding of weather events or, such things as volcanoes, it's just a mountain that spits fire. You can well imagine that you would build these kind of mythical kind of things, around them, which is, the mountain's angry. Do you know what I mean? It's like
that mountain that stood there for thousands of years is now throwing giant boulders and flames at people. Yeah, who pissed the mountain off? Yeah,
yeah, and perhaps in our history a few hundred years ago, it happened then as well, and that was the dawn of like dark times and stuff. Well, you can well imagine, we all know volcanoes, often you can set your clock to them, like, oh, this volcano here, it erupts every 10 to 20 years, this one every 1,000, you can look at it through our history and you can record them. So if you think about like this, the Harfoots, and the way they like to record their history in those books, you can well imagine how worrying that would be, like an omen, and how superstitious they are.
Oh yes.
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 So I thought that was kind of quite interesting.
As soon as they say about a new evil, everyone just looks at the stranger like,
yeah,
that guy.
What did you think about? Because obviously the Harfoots to this point have been very kind of, the stranger, he's the reason everything's going wrong. And then obviously when he fought off the wolves, all of the Harfoots are kind of like, oh, in that case, he's great. All of a sudden.
Actually, we love him. Yeah.
Actually, we love this guy. All except for the young character who met him first, who of course ended up getting her arm frozen and running off. Yeah. I still think she was completely in the wrong over that.
100%.
Anyway.
That was Nori's fault, completely. Yeah. But now she's like, oh, don't talk to him. I don't like him. He froze me because I touched him. Yeah, silly little. That's like someone grabbing an electric fence, getting a shock, and then being pissed off at a farmer for putting up an electric fence.
Bang on, mate.
Yeah, I'm like,
I like that. Yeah, that's a great analogy. That works for me. But what I like is they kind of like, oh, do you reckon he could fix the trees? So he tries. He tries to use some magic to fix the trees, and it doesn't appear to work. In fact, one of the branches falls and nearly kills one of the little Harfoots.
It's Nori's little sister, isn't it?
But what I found quite interesting in the moment as well is the stranger doesn't communicate well. He doesn't seem to be able to verbalize very well. No. Very, very few words. But I actually think the actor's doing a really great job of expressing a lot in his face.
The facial expressions, yeah.
Yeah, because he looked almost like pained, like, oh, I've tried to do this and it's not worked and I've nearly, killed a little thing.
Yeah.
He's doing so much with his face. And do you have a theory at the moment of who you think this is? I know who I'd like it to be.
I mean, I desperately want it to be Gandalf because that's why he loves the hobbits, but
yeah.
No, I have a feeling this is like one of those red herrings that's been thrown out there to get everyone talking, and then he's just going to turn out just being like a wizard.
Yeah.
Just a generic wizard. Like, oh.
Because it's interesting to me that he's being hunted.
The Slim Shady crew.
Yeah, so he basically, because of this happening, he leaves. The Harfoots are kind of like, you sticking around is kind of dangerous. The leader of the Harfoots kind of gives him directions of where he might be able to find answers of who he is.
The big folk.
The big folk, yeah.
I'm guessing he just means there's a human community that way.
Basically,
Go talk to the big blokes,
So he leaves. He goes to do that. And then the following night, like you say, the Slim Shady crew rock up hunting him. What is interesting to me is, like, because obviously there's a debate over could the stranger be Sauron? Yeah. Could the stranger be evil? And therefore, if he is, then the Slim Shady crew all dressed in white, which you'd assume are good, dressed in white. They're the ones who are trying to find him and stop him. But I'd say, given what happens in the scene with the Harfoots, it's safe to assume they are not good peoples.
Yeah, it's one of those ones there. So they're all dressed in white, which makes you go, oh, look, angels and good. Yeah. But then you look at their faces and you go, that's not the face of a good guy.
That's not
he
happy. He
looks evil.
Yeah.
I'll be interested to see kind of who these people are.
Yeah.
Because at the moment, I don't know if it's one of those things of those who kind of follow the Lord of the Rings more are probably screaming at us, well, it's obvious, they're these people.
Yeah.
And I'm there going, I have no idea. But
no,
it's going to be interesting because like I've got a picture off my screen at the moment of the three of them.
Yeah.
And he almost looks elvish, but not quite.
Yeah.
He's got a woman next to him in like full kind of like body armour and helmet and stuff.
Yeah.
Who looks very humanoid. And then he's got another lady the other side with like chest armor on, but like the headscarf like him, and drapes and stuff. And I'm like, I just can't really trying to place them as what they could be. I'm like, is it just people that are magical and worshipping trying to find this guy? Is it people that are they trying to hunt him down to kind of worship, or are they trying to hunt him down to get rid of? I can't quite work out which way it's going to go.
No. I mean, if you base on their actions of the way they burnt the Harfoot's wagons all down,
yeah,
which was kind of a causing, and they are clearly magic users.
Yeah,
you would look at that and say they're hunting him not for good reasons, because they're clearly not nice people.
Unless it turns out the stranger is a bad guy, in which case, actually.
Well, that's the funny thing.
This is where my head is at. I'm like, if the stranger is Gandalf, then these guys are out to get him and get rid of him.
Yeah.
If it turns out that this guy is a bad guy, even if it's not the big bad guy, but just a bad wizard in general, are these guys hunting him to kind of follow him and, follow the leader? He will bring us the darkness and stuff, And I'm like, without knowing again who this stranger is, it kind of leaves this really open as to what do these guys want.
Yeah, agreed. No, I agree, and it would appear that we will get the answer to this next week. In the promotional stuff, it reveals that next week we will learn who Sauron is.
Yes, that's going to be interesting.
Well, it's going to be fun. At least answers the question, I suppose. A group of 4 Harfoots are going to go off to try and find the stranger to warn him. Because they feel responsible, I'm guessing.
Well, it turns out his magic actually did work, didn't it? Because all of a sudden there's fruit and trees and blossom everywhere. So his spell worked. It just took overnight to get in it. And now all of a sudden all the Half-Orcs are like, oh, we sent him away. Oopsie.
Well, what I find kind of interesting is, obviously Nori is the one going. Her best mate is playing the Samwise Gamgee role of, me too.
Good old Poppy.
But then, all of a sudden, we got Lenny Henry's character stepping up as well. So, yeah.
I don't think stepping up's quite the right. I think,
being pushed forward.
Yeah, is it Marigold? The mum kind of was like, yep, I'll come with you. And then it was like, and you're going, oh, damn it.
And
okay.
we need a trail finder.
Yeah, and he's kind of more like dragging his heels like, bugger, it must be me. Right, okay. Because then he seems to be the most paranoid of all of them.
He is, yeah.
He's now the one being sent off. It's like, oh dear.
But I do kind of like it. I do kind of like that he's, he's going to be going along. So it's going to be interesting. So the 4 of them go off to find the stranger, whilst also those 3 psychopaths, Slim Shady wannabes, are hunting him. So it's gonna be very interesting. I mean, if it just to say this is Gandalf, okay, and obviously the magic he's used we've seen so far has all been pretty good. The tree, etc., etc.
Yep.
Is he going to be any match for 3? He doesn't seem to be very compos mentis. He's like slammed into the ground at one point and just doesn't seem to really understand what the hell's going on or how to use his powers in any way. Is he going to be any match for 3 clearly skilled magic users?
No. No is my answer at the moment.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what's going to happen there. But so that's the kind of Harfoot story. Another main story in this episode, obviously, is back in Moira, the Dwarf King says no to Prince Durin and Elrond. This, I don't know, what did you think about this? Because this kind of surprised me. With the kind of mithril and the kind of jovial way the last scene we saw ended with these 2 like walking back to the mines. I kind of felt that this wasn't going to be an issue, but the fact that the king seems to be no, let the elves die. It's their time.
Yeah, he comes out with his like little speech, doesn't he, about how, you know, all things have to come to an end and all this sort of thing. It's like, yeah, but you're talking about an entire race of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, not our race of people. It's basically his kind of look on it is, it's not our people. What's the problem? What's wrong with that? It's
it is fascinating to me, that mindset, really. And
what makes me chuckle is kind of, we've spoken on this podcast before about, you know, we know there's a big falling out between the elves and the dwarves.
Yeah.
And I think we kind of both sided on the fact of the elves are going to do something to pee the dwarves off.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, at this moment in time, it's the complete opposite way round. It's the dwarf king going, nope, go die. Yeah. Bye. And I'm like, that would probably cause quite a big rift.
Oh, massively.
Like,
but I mean, there's the whole thing, dwarves like never trust an elf.
Mm-hmm.
When you get to Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, Gimli is like, you know, never trust an elf.
Yeah.
And that is, for the dwarves, that's sort of 2 to 3 generations on.
Yeah.
From the events of what we're seeing now. In fact, I'm pretty sure Gimli is like a descendant of, you know, everyone that we're seeing.
That we're watching now, yeah. So it's interesting that, yeah, we were kind of very much, the elves are going to screw up. But at the moment, it's the dwarves kind of, no, you can all go die, and we're going to keep our stuff here, and we're not going to mine it anymore.
Yeah, and well, it makes you wonder if perhaps the elves are going to try and take it by force.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I'm not quite sure how that'd work out.
And obviously, now we've seen kind of Durin finds just how much of this there was.
Yeah, I mean, I like the scenes with him and Elrond mining.
Yeah.
I kind of, because Durin was sending him away to say there's nothing I can do, and then he saw the leaf from the elven tree come back to life just next to the mithril.
Yeah.
And it kind of hit home to him, like, I've got I can do this, I can save him. And so he called him back, and the two of them mining together and talking.
There's a lovely scene of where he suddenly realises that Elrond completely played him at the beginning.
Yeah, that was great.
Completely played him.
Loved that. That was great. You know, my goal was just to talk to you for longer. Not to beat you. And he's looking at him like, you bastard. The thing I love about their friendship, though, it is a real pure, loving friendship.
Yeah.
Like the two of them don't, like, they look at each other as equals completely, which I like.
Yeah.
And I don't think many elves would look at a dwarf as an equal, which I think is a testament to Elrond, and how different he is to his kin at this stage anyway.
I believe so, you're right there, yeah.
So the king rumbles them just as they discover just how massive a deposit this is for mithril.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's lots and lots of it, and it's like a vein of it runs right the way to the heart of the mountain. The king is furious, kicks Elrond out, disinherits his son, basically rips his title from him.
Quite literally, yeah, that was quite...
as they argue, and so that's quite, oh wow, that's a lot. When he's in the mine, he kind of says, right, seal it back up, and he throws the leaf down. And we, as the audience, get to see the bottom of the mountain, which, of course, anyone who watched Lord of the Rings would know, there is a creature of ancient darkness now awoke.
Yeah.
As the Balrog. The
Balrog is there. Now, that was quite a hell of a scene, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I did not expect that at all.
Well, it's like one of those things, like, you know where they are, you know what ends up happening at this place at one point.
Yeah.
And you know this ancient evil. And I remember Gandalf says the dwarves dug too deep. They went too far into the mountain and awoke an ancient evil. And I'm wondering if it was going for the mithril that created, this problem.
Which now then re-throws up the whole elf versus dwarf thing.
Yeah.
Of who is going to be the one that digs down too deep, and this thing is then going to actually escape, wipe out the dwarves' home.
Yeah.
And who is going to be the one to blame?
Well, yeah, it's good. It's an interesting one for sure.
I mean, I would not want to be the miner who puts the shovel in too far and that thing looks back at you.
So, hello, mate. Yeah.
If you can just clear that, nope.
Nope. I'm leaving now. So stepping away from them and catching up with the group from the fallout, if you like. Following the eruption, we catch up with Galadriel. She's covered in soot and ash, and she's struggling to try and find anybody. With the orcs and that were there are now running riot. And so she's just trying to get out, and she runs into Theo. Probably an unlikely duo, really. But a duo in this episode I kind of enjoyed. My opinion of Theo all the way up to this point definitely has been he's a little shit.
Yeah.
And he's a problematic little sod. He's causing no end of grief for everybody. He's obviously got a little bit of an evil side to him because he was addicted to that sword. But in this episode with Galadriel, I find it quite interesting. He just came across as a scared kid, really. And I thought what I found really interesting was how much he was respectful of her, not overly knowing anything about her other than he just saw her fight the day before, and I mean she was pretty badass.
Yeah, she was.
But she's incredibly kind to him as well, which you don't, at least I wouldn't have associated with Galadriel, like looking after a kid. It wouldn't seem to make sense to me earlier on, but I think in this episode we got this little bit more about her. She mentioned a husband for the very first time.
Yeah, that was an unexpected twist.
And who's never been seen again. So is that someone who's still out there, maybe? Or is that someone who has died? I don't know.
I don't know if it's been left for interpretation to maybe show up later on in the different series, or if it was just a case of no one saw him again, I assume he's dead. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So that was kind of intriguing. But yeah, I find the whole Galadriel trying to guide him back interesting. They run into orcs at different times, and she sort of guides him away from them. He wants to fight.
He's a proper little every time there's any, he's like, "Yeah, I'll fight them." And she's like, "No, stop being a dick. Just there's lots of them.
Stop being a hothead."
Yeah, there's a lot of them. There's two of us. Just sit down and shut up. Yeah.
Although I still would have backed Galadriel, by the way.
In fairness,
I still would have backed her in it. He talks about his guilt, a feeling over everything that happened, and she kind of puts his mind to rest over that, which I thought was great. And again, not something I'd expect from Galadriel.
No, she's suddenly kind of, this episode, she shows a bit more heart and a bit more, I think compassion is the word for it. Towards him, which is something that we haven't seen, that she's been so heavily focused on her goal that we've not seen anything like that from her at all. And now all of a sudden she's opening up with like this compassion about how, look, it wasn't all your fault, these things happen, I was once married, I lost someone, all this, and it's like, this is a step in a different direction.
But a good one, I think, rounding her character more. They find the camp, and Theo's reunited with his mother, and Arondir is there as well. We did have a moment where it looked like his mother could be dead, but that was luckily a fake out. The Queen has been blinded, probably from looking at the blast, I'm guessing, or the fire. But she has been blinded, and Elendil is furious and is angry at the elf, which I didn't see coming. He's livid, but he also thinks he's lost his son because a Isildur got trapped in a building. Now, we all know his son must be alive.
Well, this is true.
Because he has kind of a big future ahead of him. So, that's I don't see that. I'm guessing Elendil, thinking he's lost his son, thinking his queen's been blinded.
He's not much of the friend of the elf that like his name says at the moment, is he?
No, he's not. He's not in a good place with that. Halbrand is badly wounded, and Galadriel states that only elvish medicine can save him.
Mm-hmm.
So the king of the Southlands and his people kneel as such, heads off with her to the home of the elves to try and heal him. What two aspects of that I find kind of interesting. One is, all the people there have been waiting for this king. He shows up now. He's leaving.
Yeah.
Which, okay, thank you. Bye then.
The other aspect is she's not going to be welcomed back into the Elvish land with open arms.
That was.
They sent her away.
Yeah, they literally sent her away. So that's going to be very interesting to me, how that goes.
Hey, I'm back and I brought a human. Yay!
Yeah, it needs healing. What did you think of the moment with Adar or Adam?
Adam.
And they're all there celebrating their victory, and you see the Southlands become Mordor.
That was kind of a moment, wasn't it? I liked that.
Yeah.
They're kind of like, him saying that this isn't what it's called anymore, and then him stopping and kind of thinking, and I'm like, he's going to say it. He's going to say it. Yeah, he said it. There's me celebrating that Mordor is now a thing, and I'm like, feels that's bit not weird. Good.
Yeah. Well, it's just kind of, because I remember the episode, I think it was like episode 2 or 3, where Galadriel comes across and realises this emblem wasn't an emblem, it was a map.
Mm-hmm.
And you sort of looked at it, he goes, oh, this is the Southlands. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, that's Mordor.
Yeah.
Like, I remember.
I recognise the mountains, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, that's Mordor. So it was kind of exciting to realise that that's what it was, and now to see that actually happen, and so
I'm actually surprised it's happened as quickly as it has.
Well, it makes you wonder, because obviously we know that the plan for this is 5 seasons.
Yeah.
So if they get to tell the whole story they want to tell, they're going to be doing five seasons. So yeah, I'm a little bit surprised. Like the end of season 1, they're going to identify who Sauron is.
Which again, I would have expected that to be. If there's 5 seasons, you'd expect that to be end of season 2, middle of season 3 sort of thing.
Yeah. So we got Mordor's been established. It's going to be interesting.
Unless there's going to be some. I must admit, I am enjoying it now. We as everyone on who listens to the podcast knows, the first 2 or 3 episodes, I was really kind of like, I'm watching this to record a podcast.
Yeah.
Like we say, got to episode 5 and we kind of got that change, and now I'm like, I want to know what happens next week.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised in myself at that, because I really didn't think I was going to get to that stage of, come on, I want to see next week's episode. Come on. And now, like, even this episode, like we said, like the plot heavy, dialogue heavy kind of episode, but with the pacing now as it is, I'm like, I want to know what's happening. Like, Mordor's now there. What the heck is going to happen with Mordor? How is this all going to go? What's going to happen with the Balrog that's now been awoken?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting really good.
It is getting really good. I've gone through all my bullet points from the episode. Was there any bits and pieces you think I've missed that you wanted to chat about?
No, I think we've kind of covered. I believe we've covered. Let me have a quick look through. Yeah, I think we've covered everything that was on my list.
Yeah, excellent. I'm looking forward to the finale. A little bit sad that it's over, but we do definitely have a season 2 for next year, and the filming's already begun. So
nice.
So that's great. We'll be back next week to discuss the finale, talk about the series as a whole, and what we can look forward to in season 2. But that'll be next week. Until then, everybody, you all take care, and we'll be back soon.
And that's a wrap.
Thank you for listening to the Stuff and Things podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. You can find us on Facebook or online. Simply search the Stuff and Things podcast to join in our conversation every week.